Hello and welcome to Tune Thoughts. I'm Harsh Thakkar and today I'm going to analyze Chali Kahani from Tamasha. Tamasha is a story about finding oneself and living a life that one desires to. It also talks about going beyond conventions and mapping one's own unique path. It stars Deepika Padukone and Ranbir Kapoor in the lead roles. A clown introduces a robot that is walking the same old path and talking the same old language. But the robot has a heart that beats and desires to break away from the conventions of the wired path. There begins the tale of Tamasha. There begins the song Chali Kahani, a song that not only establishes the ideology and the narrative that the film would follow, but also dive deeper into the cultural and archetypal nuances that are ingrained in the minds of the audiences. The drama begins by showing a child who is deeply fascinated by the art of storytelling. See how the idea of being a child is equated to not being accustomed and ingrained to the power of archetypes. It is also having a fresh slate that can write any story that he wants to. He goes to the storyteller and asks him to tell stories. The storyteller then tells stories that are canonical and archetypal, the ones that are known by everyone in the world in some form or the other. Lyrics: तिरकिट ताल से लो चली कहानी, पनघट काल से लो चली कहानी, हो सरपट दौड़ती है फक्त जुबानी, छुटपुट आशिकी में ढली कहानी, अनगिन साल से है वही पुरानी, तेरे मेरे इश्क की ये नई कहानी, आती कहाँ से ये, जाती कहाँ क्या पता. Translation: The story flows in a poetic rhythm. The same story that has been going on from ages. A saga that is transferred through generations via word of mouth storytelling. A saga of love stories. The love stories are the same as they were ages before. No one knows where they came from and no one knows where they'll go. Notice how the song starts with a high note. It is the beginning of Tamasha and the voice should be strong enough to captivate as well as attract new audiences. This paragraph sets the base of the Tamasha. It is the age-old story that has been going on. This Tamasha is not going to be the same. It would be very different from what one has observed. These lines set up the expectations of the audience and it goes on to give a recap about what stories one has heard and come across since ages. ये चनाब का दरिया है, ये इश्क से भरिया, वो लहरों पे बल खाती, महिवाल से मिलने जाती, वो नाम की सोनी भी थी, महिवाल की होनी भी थी. Translation: This is the river of Chenab. It is full of love and affection. She walked like the waves of Chenab and was going to meet Mahiwal. She was a girl named Soni who was very beautiful. She was the lover of Mahiwal. This is the first instance of the story. The narration starts with the classic example of the story of Soni and Mahiwal, a story that is immortal and known by everyone in India. This is the thread from which the Tamasha starts. The very first lines tells us that, like age-old classics, this shall be a love story too, but a very different type of love story. लेकिन भय कंस का था उसको, तो फिर वासुदेव ने कान्हा को लेकर जमुना से पार लगाया. दरिया से तो फिर उनकी बहना ने फिर मूसा उठाया. चली कहानी चली कहानी, चली कहानी चली कहानी. Translation: They were afraid of Kans, the evil king. Then Vasudev took Krishna and crossed the Yamuna river. In the same way, Pharaoh's sister also took Moses from the river. These lines establish the first connection and the common thread of an archetypal story. There was an evil king who was hell bent on killing a newborn baby who was prophesied to claim the throne. People across the globe did the same thing. That is, to ensure the safety of the baby by giving it to a relative. Also, notice how beautifully the song is sung. Whenever the song reaches a part of tension and stress, the voice becomes full of chaotic and aggressive energy. When it reaches a part that is soft and symbolizing love, it is soft and soothing. Hear the lines. दरिया से तो फिरो कि बहना ने फिर मूसा उठाया, and feel the change in the voice. Just as this stanza gets over, the sargam of notes start. The love story of Sanyogita and Prithviraj is shown. Notice how the storyteller says that she had to cross boundaries of the society to meet her lover. The lines Chali Kahani play on. They go on as the story goes forward, but the kid stops the storyteller here. He stops and tells that the correct name is Sanyukta and not Samyukta. This is the place where the storyteller tells the varied perspectives of speaking the same name. The dialect and the accent changes with region, and sometimes even the name changes. But the core idea remains the same. He gives various examples such as Jesus or Isa or Sanyukta, Samyukta or Sanyogita. He thus sows the seeds of what an archetype is in the mind of a young Ved. It is just after this explanation on names that we notice a highly important and a soothing flute tone. It is the tune of separation, pain, and longing. Also, see how beautifully the tune sketches a graph of feelings in the song. The start was a high note with full energy. There were instances when the notes were low and soothing, but the tempo was fast and gave us a sense of urgency. This is soothing yet evoking. The flute acts as a shift in the dramatic narration. Something is going to happen, and this is the place where the emotions would be very different from what we have experienced. Just as they complete this idea, the paragraph of Tirkit Tal Se Lo Chali Kahani begins again. It symbolizes that no matter what one does and how badly one tries to stop, the story of life goes on. As they say, the show must go on. बिरहा का दुख काहे हो बाके, दिखे मोहे तू ही जिया में झाकिए, पल पल गिनती हूँ आठों ही पहर, कितने बरस हुए मोहे हाकिए, नैना निहार मोहे भोर से जरे, प्रीत मोरी पिया बातों से ना आँखिए, मैं ही मर जाऊं या मरे दूरियां, दूरियों की चादरों पे याद टाकिए. Translation: Why are you upset about being separated? You are in my heart and I just need to peep in to see you. The girl replies, I count every moment of the day from the day I left you. Look at my eyes and you would see tears of love and longing. I cannot express my love through words, so please do not measure through it. Let me die or please kill the distance. The boy replies, saw the distance with the thread of memories. This is the place where there is a drastic shift in the song. The singers have changed and it is the voice of actors in the narration. It is a conversation between two separated lovers. It is soft, melancholic, and a conversation full of longing that the two share. One talks about impatience to meet the other, while the other convinces her to hold on and wait. The stanza also completes the graph of the song. See how it started on a high and then fluctuated a bit in the song. The sargam becomes the midpoint where we hear changes and a sign of the coming difference. Just then, the Chali Kahani stanza is repeated and the graph increases. This becomes the final low which is there in the song. What follows is another gush of energy and the climax of the song. Also note how we are introduced to the character of Deepika and Ranbir while the last four lines are being sung. It is exactly when the line Naina Niharo Mohe Bhor Se Jare is when Deepika is shown in the picture. She is introduced. वो उठा विरोधी परचम मुगले आजम को था ये गम शहजादा मोहब्बत करके इज्जत का करेगा कचरा पसंद रोजा की थी हेलन था एक में रक्षा में रावण अंतत भीषण युद्ध मकरंतम मेरा तो रांझन माही रांझन रांझन. Translation: The rebellion flag was raised. The royal king was afraid that the prince would bring shame to the family and to the royal honor by loving someone outside their class. Helen was of Troy. Ravan was invincible and Sita was kidnapped by him. A deadly war was inevitable. All this happened for love and honor. Thus, a damsel in distress is rescued by a prince charming, be it in Ramayana or in Trojan War. The epitome of a love story is portrayed when two lovers die for each other, just like they did in Laila Majnu, Romeo Juliet, Heer Ranjha or Soni Mahibal. The predicted savior of the kingdom is adopted by the relative, be it in case of Krishna or in the case of Moses. Listen to the song and you would also realize how dramatic and narrative the song is. Music has its own journey. It has a soft flute beginning that lays the foundation for the story to start. Then there are notes on the brass and the vocals start blending with the brass notes. It then becomes a jugalbandi of sitar, percussions and vocals that increase the tempo of the song and bring in excitement. As the second stanza starts, there is a perfect description of the start of the story, be it in form of Krishna's birth or Moses' birth. What follows is the sargam that prepares us for what is coming next. There is a curiosity built to know more and we get more and more impatient. Exactly then, there is a dip in the form of the voice and the tempo also decreases when the stanza about Viraha plays. This is such a brilliant way to keep the audience hooked on and also give them a bit relief to the fast growing tempo. Finally, it reaches the climax of the song where the percussion and the vocals combine to beautifully give you the idea of excitement and thrill. The song ends with a high note. Interestingly, the very next scene of the movie deviates from the archetypes. It is the scene where Ved and Tara meet and decide not to reveal their details. This marks how they start their journey, but they deviate from the conventions that are given by the society. What follows throughout the movie is how Tara becomes an integral part in enlightening Ved's desire to be the storyteller and deviate from the conventions. And in turn, she becomes the person who does not need any Prince Charming to rescue her, or she is not even the embodiment of Prince Charming. She becomes the catalyst of his mind in a subtle yet very powerful way. Just like how the clown beats the robot on its heart and removes him from the boundaries of the treadmill. That was a marvel from Tamasha. That was the analysis of Chali Kahani. This beautiful movie is directed by Imtiaz Ali. The song is written by Irshad Kamil, composed by A.R. Rahman, and sung by Sukhvinder Singh, Hari Charan, and Hari Priya. That is all for this episode. I hope you liked listening to it. Do send in your feedback or suggestions at tunethoughts25@gmail.com. You can find the email ID in the description below. You can also read the text version of this analysis on the blog. You can find the blog link in the description too. And yes, don't forget to share, subscribe, and rate this podcast. It would mean the world to me. We meet next time with the analysis on Yohi Challa Rahi from Swades. Until then, take care and keep smiling. Da 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 da.